Hi, my name is Seth Trimmer, and I'm your Every Nation pastor in Corvallis, Oregon, here in the United States. And I want to talk to you guys about the current challenge that we're facing right now. The coronavirus has created a social distancing paradigm that is obviously extremely difficult for churches, predicated around social proximity. And so the great challenge we have now as pastors and leaders is how do we manage this present moment where social distancing is required while still maintaining some level of spiritual connection. And this is not an easy tension to manage, although there's plenty of categories for it and trying to find ways to connect with people while you can't be with them necessarily in the room. It's still creating all kinds of questions and all kinds of tensions. And even as I've been praying and pondering this moment and what it means for us as the church, I am concerned for some of the ways churches may react in this moment, but I'm incredibly encouraged about the possibilities of how churches might respond in this moment. And one of the things that we can immediately begin to appreciate is that we have an incredible tool at our disposal in order to be able to create spiritual connection, even in spite of social distance. We have this amazing thing called the internet and videos, where we can stream our faces and our voices live to anywhere in the world in real time. It's an incredible and amazing and a powerful tool. And so one of the most immediate things that almost every church is doing now across the world is just that. It's figuring how to learn the technology in such a way that they can project all their content, their pastoral voices and faces into living rooms of their people, and how to continue the ongoing, mission of their church some way, somehow, through the medium of technology and the internet. And while this is all really, really good, this is an amazing gift that we have, and the human creativity involved with all of it is almost limitless. There is also some cautions that we have to have as we approach this season. Most notably, what is this going to do for our ecclesiology? Meaning that we have to ponder and consider what it means to be the church and who the church is really called to be and what the church is really called to do. And there's no way to get around the fact that the church is called to be the people of God who gather together and come in close proximity with one another. This is central to what it means to be God's church. In fact, it's a powerful thing that happens when we are actually connected and in the room together. We're feeling it now more and more as we're socially distanced, that there's actually beginning to be a bit of a hunger growing in people for being in the room with one another. And this is actually because it's the very nature of the way church is designed to be. And no matter how good technology is, no matter how amazing of a tool the internet can be, it simply can't recreate personal presence and being in the room with people. In one sense, it might seem a little bit hypocritical to talk about how internet is just a mimicking facsimile of the idea of being in the presence of one another, because the entire New Testament, for the most part, is letters written by pastors who aren't physically present with their people. And so this isn't a new idea that somehow we would transmit content or a message to our people even though we couldn't be present with them. But if you actually read those letters and listen especially to the Apostle Paul, like in the book of Romans, it's just one example. In chapter 1, starting in verse 10, he says, I've been praying that God would make a way for me to be with you, and that when I am able to be with you, that I might be able to impart some spiritual gift to you, and that we might be mutually encouraged by one another's faith. Now, in light of our current moment, that just weighs heavier on me as I really consider it. Because Paul is dropping on the Roman church the deepest and most profound level of theology that anyone anywhere may ever get. And yet he's saying there's still an upgrade from me writing this incredibly powerful, spirit-inspired letter to you. It's actually being with you. And that something happens when we're in the room together. That there is some kind of special impartation that happens, a spiritual gift that he might impart. There's a mutual encouragement of one another's faith. And in the same way that we understand a virus can spread through the intermediate presence of human contact, faith spreads the same way. Paul knew that, and so he longed to be with his people. He was willing to use the technology of the Roman road delivery system as well as letters to communicate with them when he was not able to be with them, or he was imprisoned, or whatever other circumstance he found himself. But he was never satisfied with it. He knew there was something powerful about being together in God's presence. And this shouldn't surprise us. The fact that from the very beginning of the biblical story, God desired to have presence with his people, that even when sin entered the world, God was figuring out a way to reintegrate his presence back into our lives via the tabernacle and then the temple and then ultimately in the incarnation of Jesus himself. And that simply just having the presence of God among us wasn't all the way full and complete until we had the presence of God with us individually and then also with us as a collective community as well. It's why when Jesus was quoting the most important commandment, he said it's not just to love God with everything you've got, it's also to love one another as well, to love your neighbor as yourself. The idea of God's presence with us and even loving God and receiving his love can never be disconnected from being with God's people and giving and receiving love from them as well. There's something so powerfully important, not only within the nature of God and the very design fabric of creation, but even to the root of our ecclesiology, what it means to be the church. And as pastors, as leaders, we are the ones that must be the guardians of this. And so my encouragement during this time is not to somehow throw away our technology or to look down on it or to judge those who are producing massive amounts of incredible content right now. No. Just the opposite. It's to be incredibly grateful for the technology that we have in this rare and extreme moment that we do need to stay socially distanced and isolated so that we can help the prevention of the further spread of this disease, to be thankful for the technology so that we can still create some level of spiritual connection, even in the midst of social distance. But we should also be helping our people to remain discontent. That this is not the new normal. This is not the way things will always be. These are not the way things are supposed to be. And so any sort of rumblings about how this is going to change the way we do church forever, or this is the new way I'm going to do church now. I can get more eyeballs on my content doing things online than I ever could simply in person, or there's all kinds of cool ways that we can now do our small groups or our programs via maybe technology, and maybe we can just bypass the idea of being together in the same room. Like, for rare and extreme circumstances and moments, those might very well be appropriate, but it is not actually in alignment with what God has called us to be as his church. He's called us to be together. He's called us to gather. And there's something that uniquely and exclusively happens when we gather, compared to when we're just simply spiritually connected at a distance. And so as we ponder this moment, as we lead through this moment, as we're all walking through uncharted waters where we're all figuring it out as we go, we will, by necessity, learn how to do technology better. But my deep hope is that we will lean into something greater. That we will lean into the discontent of not being able to be together. That we will lean into prayer and intercession, which is our most powerful gift and weapon right now. And though we will, and many of us already have, upgrade our knowledge and learn more about technology, we will lean into prayer. We will lean into our discontentment of not being together. And this will preserve the integrity of what it means to be the church, while we also shepherd people through this very difficult and challenging time. I hope this is a blessing to you all. I hope that you continue to learn and to lean into the right places. Grace and peace to you all.